video today, and I hope that my audio, my mic is working a little bit better for you and you can clearly hear me. If not, please let me know in the comments. But let's get into it. This video, we are going to focus on the timeline that we have so far. I have reviewed the timeline. I have compared it to what other people have put together themselves online, compared it to the reports, to the interviews, and for the most part, I feel like this is what we have so far. If anything is missing, which I feel like there could be, please share it in the comments if you are able to catch what's missing or what was not mentioned, things like that. Again, I am just sharing my thoughts and my opinions on this case, and this video is only for entertainment and educational purposes only. So let's get into it. So what do we know from the beginning of the Idaho 4 case? We know that Kaylee purchased her car literally 2 days before she made her way back to the 1122 King Road residence, right? She wanted to show her car off to her best friend Maddie, and allegedly she was also invited by Dylan as her date to Dylan and Bethany's Pi Phi sorority formal. Referring back to the Gonzalez family first interview, Christy Gonzalez, Kaylee's mother, mentioned that she was going back and forth about should she go back, should she not. She finally decided that she just was going to go back and she's going to go to the party. She is going to show off her new car and she's going to make her way back home on Tuesday. Here we have Friday, November 11th, 2022, 4:30 p.m. Pi Phi formal pregame at the 1122 King Road residence. As we see that there are a good amount of people there. I believe Bethany is wearing white. Most of the Pi Phi girls are wearing black. Kaylee's also wearing black, and so is Maddie. We see a lot of those photos circulating around. And if you are new to this case, Pi Phi sorority, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funke were active members. Emily Allant, I'm not sure if she was an active member at that time, but she was definitely Dylan Mortensen's quote unquote big. And Josie was an active member of Pi Phi sorority as well. My opinion, it is very important to know the connections there. Dylan, Bethany, Emily, Josie. They are all from the same sorority. Around 7:20 to 8:30 p.m. that night, Pi Phi formal. Dylan Mortensen, Kaylee as her date, allegedly. They went to the Pi Phi house. It was said that Maddie Mogan ordered Dylan Mortensen, Kaylee, an Uber home. So from the Pi Phi house, they made their way to the Whites, then to the King Road home. Around 12:15 a.m., Dylan Mortensen goes to bed, and there is allegedly a photo of Dylan in her bed at this time. Moving forward with Saturday, November 12th. Around 10 to 11 a.m., Bethany Funke wakes up. Ethan and Bethany are the only ones at home. 44 to 12:15 p.m., Dylan, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana go get coffee, Taco Bell, and alcohol. Dylan Mortensen has a video of Xana in the car. 12:30 p.m., Dylan, Bethany, Maddie, and Kaylee get ready in Kaylee's room. Bethany Funke states that around 12:30 to 1 p.m., they started drinking mimosas. She also mentions that they were all ready by that time. Between 12:30 to 1:20, they are still in Kaylee's room, mingling, getting ready, drinking mimosas. Kaylee then leaves to go to the White's apartments before everyone else. So Kaylee leaves to go to the White's apartment. And remember, Kaylee Ewan, who was the active member and was Kaylee's sorority sister, lived at the Whites. She talked about in her interview how they all went to her place. That's where they took the pictures, the last pictures that Kaylee posted on her Instagram account of all of them. That was around 2 p.m. Bethany, Dylan, Maddie, Xana, Ethan, they make their way to the Whites. Ethan then leaves long before everyone else, likely to get ready for Macy Chapin, his sister's formal that night. 3:50 p.m., Bethany and Xana leave together. Dylan Mortensen, Maddie, and Kaylee stay at the Whites. Bethany and Xana make their way to a house in the King Road neighborhood. 4:50, Bethany texts Maddie asking if they're home. Maddie says yes. Bethany and Xana leave. Around 5 p.m., they go into detail stating that Dylan makes pasta, Xana is making a sandwich. Kaylee goes to her room for a nap. The remaining roommates sit on a couch and watch TV, talk, agree to nap, and set their alarms for 8 p.m. Everyone naps in their own rooms but Dylan. Dylan is on the couch. We know that allegedly Ethan was not there at that time, likely at sister's formal pre-gaming. Between 6 and 6:30 p.m., Bethany starts her nap. 8 p.m., everyone wakes up. Dylan Mortensen says that Ethan comes after they wake up, but doesn't give exact time based on Macy Chapin's timeline, likely between 8:45 to 9 p.m. That is when Ethan made his way back to the 1122 King Road residence. Let's recap. So Maisie asked Ethan to be her date for her Kappa Alpha Theta formal, and this was at the Hunka Dunga Brewery, where we have now come across photos that are said to be allegedly the last photos of Ethan. So this is at the Hunka Dunga Brewery. In the photos, we see a couple of familiar faces. I will have the photos for you here. Around 9 p.m., Maisie mentioned being dropped off at her sorority by Ethan, and she goes to bed, and she mentioned him sending his last text message of I love you to her, and how that was weird because they never said I love you to one another. 9:30 p.m., Bethany Funke and Maddie Mogan go to Sigma Chi. Ethan and Xana come to Sigma Chi shortly after Bethany and Maddie. They meet up in Hunter Chapin's apartment at the fraternity. Dylan stays behind to turn in psych homework. At 10:12 p.m., Dylan turns in her homework. She mentions that the assignment only took her 20 minutes. Then she got ready to go to Sigma Chi. She says she was walking to the Sigma Chi by 10:30 p.m. After Dylan leaves and makes her way to Sigma Chi walking, Kaylee is still home. She's in her room with a friend getting ready for the corner club. Dylan Mortensen mentions that Kaylee was home and she was in her room getting ready to go to the corner club with a friend. She mentions that when she left to go to Sigma Chi, she wasn't sure if Kaylee's friend was still there. Around 10:30 p.m., Maddie leaves Sigma Chi to walk home and go to the corner club with Kaylee. So Dylan sees Maddie when she is making her way to the White's parking lot, and Maddie's walking back to 1122 King Road. At 11:04, Dylan takes photos of Xana. Dylan calls Ethan and Xana once she gets to Sigma Chi and meets up with them. At 10:30 p.m., Maddie, Kaylee arrive at the corner club with that friend. At 11:04, Dylan takes a photo of Xana with a White Claw. Ethan mentions being worried about her because she had been crying earlier that night and wasn't answering her phone after he dropped her off. She allegedly fell asleep. That's why she wasn't texting back. This is the last time Dylan sees Ethan and Xana, allegedly. Around 12:50 a.m., there's a video that DM went to an after party. Now we know after hearing another interview, she went to the lodge party. So the lodge is in Sigma Chi. It was the last time that Dylan allegedly saw Xana and Ethan at Sigma Chi when Ethan mentioned he was worried about his sister in Hunter's apartment. I have Emily Allant, who mentioned she wakes up at 1:30 a.m., sees Snapchats of Xana, and I quote, and them. Who is and them? These are very important questions because we don't even have an exact timeline for Xana and Ethan. Bethany Funke mentions being at. She mentions it's only 5 minutes away from the 1122 King Road house. She has a photo that she took there. But we know that Dylan, Bethany, Lakeland, and Yessie were all together at the lodge party. Around 12:57 a.m., Dylan mentions she leaves Sigma Chi after party with Lakeland to go home. Lakeland was too drunk to walk, so Dylan got a Sobro for a ride home. She allegedly has video evidence. I know the last video I have is of us with blank dancing at the after party. After 12:15 a.m., Bethany Funke goes to get a bag from sees Xana and Ethan last time. So at 12:15 a.m. is the time that Bethany Funke allegedly sees Xana and Ethan for the last time, and they, in my opinion, I believe they're still in Hunter's apartment, unless they made their way to a different apartment at Sigma Chi. She mentions seeing them on the couch. She went in there to grab her backpack. So at 1 a.m., she leaves the Sigma Chi after party, walks back home alone. Dylan Mortensen was there before her. Around 1 to 1:15 a.m., Dylan arrives home with Lakeland. No one else was home when they arrived. At 1:20 a.m., Bethany Funke, Dylan, and Lakeland are watching Vampire Diaries. They have photo evidence of this. At 1:30 a.m., Dylan goes to her room and lays down until Maddie, Mogan, and Kaylee arrive. Lakeland leaves on foot to her sorority house. This is interesting. How far is Lakeland? Has to be from the same sorority as Dylan and Bethany, which is Pi Phi. So how far is Pi Phi? Because Dylan mentioned Lakeland being drunk, but maybe she sobered up because that's why she walked home alone. And if she walked home back to her sorority house at that time, how far is that sorority home for 11 to 2? Dylan allegedly went to her room before Lakeland left, and someone else informed her that Lakeland had walked home. Bethany continues watching Vampire Diaries alone at this time after Lakeland left. At 1:45 a.m., investigators suggest that this is when Ethan and Xana returned to the King Road home. They have not confirmed this. There's no proof of this. We now know that Xana allegedly placed the DoorDash order at 2:15 a.m. Investigators have allegedly solidified this timeline, but narrowed it down with phone location data showing Ethan and Xana's phones leaving Sigma Chi. 1:30 to 2 a.m., you have Maddie and Kaylee go from the corner club to the grub truck, get picked up by Eric Gower, and allegedly dropped off home by Eric Gower. We do see this in the surveillance, but unfortunately, we can't hear anything during this time, which is, in my opinion, a very important time. 2 a.m., MA and Kaylee arrive home. At 2:02 a.m., there is a photo of Maddie, Kaylee, Dylan, and Bethany on the bed. This is interesting because this is literally only minutes after. So Dylan must have just jumped out of bed when she heard Kaylee and Maddie come home. And there's a photo. So very quick to just take photos of everything, to record. In my opinion, you just want something to back up what you're saying. My opinions and speculations. Around 2:10 a.m., Dylan's records state that Dylan has a video she took. I'm not sure. They never mentioned it was a Snapchat. It's just a video, maybe, that she took. You can hear someone say, "No one's sober. Does anyone else want to text Uber driver and ask if he's still driving?" video. And Dylan sends a text to Eric Gower asking if he's still driving. So that is just odd to me, because it's as if like, okay, I need a picture for this time, I need a video for this time to confirm that it's this time. Like, or are you really just genuinely taking pictures, taking random videos? I mean, so she must have grabbed, from waking up, from hearing Kaylee and Maddie get home, she got up, she got her phone, went upstairs, took a picture with Kaylee and Maddie, Bethany, everyone's on the bed. Then she's also recording them talk about going back out to get food. In my opinion, it just doesn't make sense, but let's move on. 2:10 a.m., Dylan texts Eric Gower to see if he's still driving. 2:13 a.m., 3 minutes later, he says, "Yes, I am." Her and Kaylee decide not to go get more food. DM never responds to Eric Gower. Dylan mentions hearing music playing in the living room. She also mentions she has a habit of locking her door before bed. She can't remember if she locked it, but she lays down to go to bed and thinks she turned on Vampire Diaries on her phone by around 2:15 a.m. and then fell asleep. So within minutes, she's allegedly back in bed, can't remember if she locked her door or not, and possibly watching Vampire Diaries. 2:15 a.m., Bethany and Maddie let Murphy out. Bethany goes outside briefly, literally seconds, and Maddie lets Murphy out. Bethany comes back inside, grabs a bag of chips from the pantry, and she says she goes downstairs. She gets on her iPad to watch Baby Daddy. While she's watching her show on the iPad, Baby Daddy, Maddie knocks on Bethany's door. The door is locked. Maddie asks Bethany if she's seen Murphy. Bethany shuts her iPad and goes to bed. Dylan mentioned she knew that Xana and Ethan were not home because she could see that the door was open. Then she goes back to say, wait, I actually can't even remember if the door was open or not. Calls made to Jack Decor from Kaylee and Maddie start at 2:26 a.m. Kaylee makes 6 phone calls. Maddie makes 2 phone calls. Kaylee allegedly texts Jack, I have your vape at my house. You can come get it. At 2:52 a.m., the last phone call was made by Maddie Mogan. At 2:53 a.m., Maddie calls Bethany Funke. No answer. At 4 a.m., the Jack in a Box DoorDash delivery. Per the DoorDash records that were just released, at 3:59 a.m., that is when the DoorDash order for Xana was delivered. So remember that Molly mentions being in the King and Queen Road neighborhood for about 15 minutes, she mentioned. Obviously, we may not know if it's accurate or not, but going off of what she mentioned, she said she was there for a very long time, more than she should have been, trying to find the house. So 15 minutes would place her there around 3:45 a.m. Delivers the food at 3:59 a.m. Allegedly at 4:16 a.m., Xana is on TikTok. Xana being on TikTok or her account being active at 4:16 a.m., in my opinion, is not a sign of life. I'm not saying that it was someone else. I'm just saying that let's just really think about this. It does not confirm that she was alive at this time. 4:10 a.m. So it says here that at 4:10 a.m. Dylan wakes up, but we know Dylan was up, creating a contact at 3:51 a.m. who we still don't know who is that contact. She wakes up and hears Kaylee dancing with Murphy, allegedly, and playing music. She hears walking up the stairs at a normal pace. Then she hears Kaylee say, someone's here, before running down. 4:17 a.m., you hear dog barking, and that is when you hear the thud on the 1112 surveillance. This time, Dylan has mentioned that she heard Kaylee wearing Doc Martens. She knew that Kaylee was wearing Doc Martens coming down, running down the stairs. We see the random pair of Doc Martens just thrown around in the living room, which I don't think are Kaylee's, because I feel like in pictures, hers seem more bulkier, but who knows? Know that Kaylee was found in pajamas. She was in plaid pajama pants and the Corner Club nasty and inebriated black t-shirt, 1 sock only. So she goes on to mention that the noises stop. She calls out for Kaylee, allegedly. She closes her door, locks her door. 4:17 a.m., there's a thud on the surveillance camera. Bethany Funke wakes up to a firecracker, dog barking, and table moving. So not only did Bethany Funke hear the firecracker, she also heard table moving around this time. And she was the one that called Dylan. Dylan did not call Bethany to inform her that she heard Kaylee say, someone is here. Bethany called Dylan after she allegedly heard this firecracker sound and seen a spark underneath her door. Dylan then opens her door. She looked into the living room. She saw nothing. She shuts her door and locks it. She hears Murphy barking. She opens her door again. She hears crying in the bathroom. And that's where the famous line, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." She thought it was Kaylee, but then says it could have been Xana. and they questioned her, who was this person talking to? And she said that they were talking to the person that was in the bathroom. Then she started hearing the barking getting more distant. She opens the door again, and this is when she sees, allegedly, Bryan Kohberger. His eyes and his eyebrows. So where she sees Bryan Kohberger is a very, we have the we have the ping pong table. We have that tight middle area between Dylan's room to the kitchen, which is very tight. In pictures, it seems bigger than what it is. So if she were to see the perpetrator where she mentioned seeing him, it would only be about 1 foot away from her. Nothing more than 2 feet away from her. So can you imagine being 2 feet away from someone, locking eyes with them, and they're just closing the door back like nothing without calling 911? She said that she saw him walk out toward the sliding back door, holding somewhat of what it looked like a mini vacuum. A mini vacuum. So what was this weapon that she saw him holding? So was this a mini vacuum in the other hand? Had the K-bar knife? Because obviously the sheath was allegedly left next to Maddie. So they're carrying this knife and this mini vacuum around. Blood is dripping from the knife, we can assume. Or did this person go and wash off their knife before heading out, so there was no blood dripping? It just doesn't make sense. Also, I want to mention, if Dylan opened her door and sees him, if she were to see him walking out, she would have to come outside of her door, because there's this cabinet corner wall that would definitely be in the way. So she would not be able to clearly see if he walked out the sliding door, unless she came out of her bedroom, or unless she was outside of her room and she knew for a fact that he left. The way that her door opens, she would literally have to be physically outside of her room to be able to see if he left through the sliding back door. And if she just opened her door slightly and just looked out, then he must have had been right there at the step, that small step, that random small step that you see in the middle between Dylan's room and the kitchen, for her to be able to just quickly see him and close her door and lock her door. At 4:19 a.m., that's where you see the texts start being exchanged between Bethany and Dylan. The last text message that DM, I believe, sent was at 4:32 a.m. to Kaylee, please answer. Dylan then runs to Bethany's room, sees Xana in her room, and thinks she's just drunk and passed out. Bethany can hear Dylan running down the stairs, so she unlocks the door. Dylan locks the door behind her. They fall asleep quickly, not realizing anything was wrong. And the morning calls start at 7:30 a.m. by Bethany, who is calling her dad because of a toothache, allegedly. 11:20, Dylan checks Maddie Mogan's iPhone location and sees that she's at home, so she thinks she's okay. Bethany wakes up. She realizes the roommates didn't answer, and Xana's Snapchat location didn't update. Locations turn off after 8 hours inactivity, I believe. She starts freaking out. The roommates aren't answering. Are they awake? Bethany calls Jenna. And Jenna's the one that you see on footage come to the King Road neighborhood, grab 4, the blue one. She has long hair. Jenna McClure, she calls her. After calling Jenna, Jenna offers to pick up Dylan and Bethany. Then at 11:50, Dylan calls Emily and Hunter. and to look through the house. Hunter gets there first, opens the front door with door code. And at 11:50 a.m., the girls come out Bethany Funke's room for the first time that morning, allegedly. Hunter starts walking upstairs and asks, "What do you have for me to protect myself?" Dylan tells him there's knives in the kitchen and follows him upstairs. Dylan calls Xana again and freaks her out because Xana was in the same position and hasn't moved at all. She's just unconscious. She's just drunk too much. She's unconscious. I didn't think dead at all. That never crossed my mind. Once, never, ever, ever did that cross my mind. Dylan started crying and walking down the stairs. Emily and Josie come up the stairs from the White's apartments. As DM exits the house, DM tells Emily and Josie she's not waking up. She's not waking up. She's unconscious. Hunter comes downstairs looking freaked out and says to call the police right now. Bethany Funke is the one that calls 911. The 911 call lasts from 11:55 a.m. to 11:59 a.m. With this 911 call and the interviews and things like that, one interview mentions that Hunter entered the code to get in. In another interview, the door was already open. In a witness account interview, someone that was walking around in the neighborhood walking their dog, they mentioned seeing the front door open between the 2-hour walk that they had around the neighborhood. We don't know who that person is, by the way, but they made a report. There is a report of that where they mentioned leaving to walk their dog, they seen the front door open, and when they made their way around the entire neighborhood, which took approximately an hour 45 to 2 hours, they came back around past the front of 1122, and the door was still allegedly open. And that is when the phone call is made, and they mentioned that they're calling in an unconscious person. So when they make the phone call, Bethany is crying. She's saying something happened in our house and we don't know what. They pass the phone, or the phone is being passed around. They mentioned that if there is an unconscious person, can you find out? Dylan says, yeah, come on, Bethany, we gotta go check, but we have to. They walk up the stairs. She passed out. Hunter is heard saying, Xana Ethan, she's passed out. She's not waking up. So at this time, at this very moment, I would like to know that did they not see that bloody crime scene in Xana's room at this time? So was Dylan not able to see the bloody crime scene, the blood on Xana's face at this time, her bloody shirt? There's yelling, heavy breathing. Where's Kaylee? Get out, get out, get out. We just want some things to make sense. If some things start to make sense, the less questions that everyone has. And then maybe they do have the right person behind bars. But 3 years later, and things still don't make sense, there are more questions than answers.